Happy Thanksgiving to all of you out there. I hope you enjoy it with your family and friends. Listen, guys, just take my advice from somebody who has been in this business for way too many years. Today is a day that you should be enjoying it. If it's a day where you're going to let the outcome of the games affect how your day plays out, stop watching the video, don't bet any of the games, and just take a day off from gambling, because there's plenty of action on Friday and Saturday and Sunday that you can make money and maybe unfortunately lose money. So again, if the outcome of today's game is going to affect your life, just take a day off. Enjoy it with family and friends. Thanksgiving, Christmas, they only come around once a year for a reason. So again, you have plenty of other days to make or unfortunately sometimes lose money. Doesn't have to be today. Otherwise, if you're on board, let's get with it. Guys, you know, it's been a great season for yours truly in terms of my complimentary plays, in terms of NFL action. And hey, let's get with it. I've got a complimentary play coming up here with your early game between Minnesota and Detroit. And plus, I want to take a look at that late college football game, your only college football game, in fact, the game in College Station tonight between Texas A&M and LSU. I did all the handicapping for the game. I'll give you my thoughts on the contest. It's a very difficult game when you break it down because of a number of mitigating factors. But again, I already did all the work, so let me at least pass you my insight on this particular contest. Now, the big play today, however, and I just want to point this one out before I get going any further, is going to be the one from Chris Jordan. Now, Chris Jordan today has his one and only blank check NFL Game of the Year selection going. It's on the early game between Minnesota and Detroit that kicks off around 12:30 Eastern Time. He is 15-8 lifetime with NFL blank check releases. Now, when I say lifetime, I'm talking about a 33-year period, long before these websites were created. I'm talking about going back to the days of 900 telephone service numbers when I was in this business back then, and he was as well. 15-8 lifetime with NFL blank check releases. And his one and only play goes today. It's Minnesota and Detroit. And when I saw it, I made that the half price play of the day. And again, you can get it for half price simply by using coupon code HALF, H-A-L-F. Now, with 1,000 star plays or higher, he has made $1 bettors a little over $89,000 dating back to 2006. And from what I understand, a blank check play would basically be the equivalent of 5 times his normal top-rated 1,000 star play. So that's what he has on the line today with this blank check release. All the other discounts and promos, etc., can be found over on the homepage, including the latest from Steve Budin's Cali Cartel. Let's get with it with your complimentary release. In terms of free plays on the season with NFL action, I'm 28-13-2 after a 3-0 sweep on Sunday. And I want to take a look at this early game between Minnesota and Detroit. Listen, I'm not exactly sold on the fact that the Lions are for real, but hell, they keep on winning, so, you know, why not keep on riding them? I find it interesting that this line has dropped from 2 to 1.5 to 1 as I do this video report for you at about 1 o'clock Eastern time in the morning here on Thursday. Now, the Lions are coming off a 26-19 home win against Jacksonville. They did not look impressive in that contest. I don't know if it's because they were coming off the bye and they were a little rusty, but it was a lackluster performance nonetheless. They needed 10 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to win for the 5th time in 6 games. They were only 5 for 14 on third downs. They only had 277 total yards in the game. Matthew Stafford was only 22 for 35 for 202 yards, and he had 2 interceptions to go along with his 2 touchdown passes. Now, if you told me at the beginning of the year that Jim Caldwell will still have a job, I would have been shocked. But here he is, and he has his Lions in playoff contention. If you had told me the Lions would even be near 500 or above at this time of year, I would have told you we're crazy at the outset of the year, especially without Calvin Johnson. And then 2 weeks into the season, they lose their top running back. But that's the type of year that Matthew Stafford has had. And the Lions have been a resilient team because the bottom line is they have trailed in the fourth quarter of every single one of their 10 games this season. And here's an interesting fact for you. The straight-up winner is a perfect 10-0 against the spread in Detroit's games this season. Now, they won the first go-round in overtime at Minnesota, 22-16 was that final score as a 6-point road dog. The Vikings, you tell me what we're getting here today. Are we getting the Vikings team that looked so dominant during the 5-0 straight up in ATS start? Are we going to get the Vikings team that then lost 4 straight games, both straight up and against the spread? Are we going to get the Vikings team that looked miserable in the first half at home last week against Arizona when they allowed the Cardinals to go up and down the field? First half of that game, Arizona ran off 41 plays, ran off 263 yards in total offense. Or are we going to get the Minnesota team that tightened the screws defensively in the second half of that game, because the Cardinals, after having 263 total yards in the first half, finished that game with a net of 290, and they subsequently lost that game 30-24. Vikings still have plenty of problems offensively. Listen, 2 of their touchdowns last week in that 30-24 win came courtesy of an interception return and a special teams TD. They don't have a running game. You can't run the ball in the NFL. You don't score enough points. You've got to be a lucky team that counts on special team production, that counts on defensive turnovers producing points. That's a damn tough twosome to count on. You know what I mean, guys? So at this particular number, -1, obviously people are riding the Vikings on revenge. Adrian Peterson's not coming back here today, guys. He's going to be back in a few weeks. I got to ride Detroit here. They won 3 straight and covered 3 straight on Thanksgiving. I'll take the Lions. Again, I am not sure if this team is for real, but I'm willing to take a shot on Detroit in this game. And again, my free plays on the season, again, 28-13-2 with the NFL freebies. Now, this game between LSU and Texas A&M in College Station here this evening. An interesting game, to say the least, for a number of different factors. Listen, last week when LSU played, they were hosting Florida in that makeup game from Hurricane Matthew that was originally scheduled to play in Gainesville. Let's say LSU forced their hand, Florida's hand, shall we say, and made that game be played in Baton Rouge, which pissed off the Gator family, pissed off everybody in Gainesville, and Florida took them to the woodshed and managed to win that game and took care of business. And in the process, it probably cost Ed Orgeron a chance to get the job at LSU on a full-time basis. In fact, as I do this report, I happen to be reading a couple of different SEC forums and LSU fan blogs where reportedly, rumor has it, that Jimbo Fisher has been offered, I think part of Louisiana, the annexed part of the state, and plus back up a couple of Brinks trucks to Tallahassee and give them all the money in the state of Louisiana coffers to come and take over the program. Who knows if he'll leave Tallahassee? But that's the latest rumors, and you've been hearing these rumors forever anyway. It's an interesting thing. Not only did it cost Orgeron probably a chance to get the job on a full-time basis, but also cost LSU a chance to go to the Sugar Bowl. And it was a game that LSU gave away because they outgained Florida 423-270 in that contest. They had 9 more first downs. They were 7 for 14 on third downs. 5 times they were inside the Florida 8-yard line, but they only came away with 10 points in the game. Turnovers killed them. Turnovers killed them throughout that contest. I mean, 4th and goal, a yard away from the end zone. The final play of the game, Darius Geis, who saw the bulk of the action and had a hell of a game, fumbled on a play which he ran the wrong way, cost them the game. So it was a devastating loss. And your first inclination is to say, well, how does LSU rebound and win this game with so much at stake last week and they lose that contest? Well, let me ask you this. 3 weeks ago, Alabama came to town, and it was a hard-fought game where Bama finally broke through in the fourth quarter, and Bama won that game 10-0. And what did LSU do? Following week, they go to Fayetteville, and they crush Arkansas, destroy the Razorbacks. Because Ed Orgeron is one of those guys who, although he failed as a head coach at Mississippi, was it because he failed as a head coach or because he failed because he didn't have talent? He's one of those guys that always seems in an interim position to get his team to play. And that's the situation, and that's the quandary I'm in here about making a pick on this game tonight. Because I think the Tigers will respond tonight. Now, Leonard Fournette is not going to be playing tonight. He shouldn't have played last week because there was a pregame fracas between the Gators and the Tigers. He decided to make himself available, and Orgeron decided to let him play. And he was not the Leonard Fournette that we saw running wild earlier this season against Mississippi on national TV. He was hindered by that ankle injury, had 12 carries, 40 yards. Well, he's not playing tonight. So Darius Geis is going to once again being responsible for the bulk of the run game tonight. And it's kind of interesting because, Texas A&M's defensive coordinator is John Chavis, who used to be the DC at LSU and has a lawsuit involving LSU right now for monies owed, and it's a whole complicated thing we don't want to get into. The other thing is that LSU's defense is outstanding. The LSU defense doesn't get the respect it deserves. They've only allowed 11 touchdowns in 10 games. That's the least number allowed in college football this season. Alabama's allowed 13 touchdowns in 11 games. They are 11th in total defense in terms of yards allowed per game at 308 per contest. They're 6th in scoring defense at 14.1 points allowed per game. They haven't allowed more than 21 in any single game this season. So they're going to take the field tonight, however, without their middle linebacker and leading tackler, Kendall Beckwith, who's out with a knee injury. Now, you got Texas A&M coming in here, and I don't think much of the Aggies. But late last night, a report surfaced that starting quarterback Trevor Knight, who was thought to be out for the rest of the regular season because of a shoulder injury to his non-throwing shoulder, was suddenly going to be starting this game because the guy who had been starting played last week against Texas San Antonio with a shoulder injury of his own, and he was not going to be available. So as I record this video report for you at 1 a.m. Eastern Time, I cannot tell you with 100% certainty who the hell is quarterbacking for LSU tonight. Or, I'm sorry, for Texas A&M tonight. Kind of makes it difficult. But this much I can tell you. LSU is 31-4 straight up after a loss since 2005. LSU is 5-0 against Texas A&M since the Aggies joined the SEC. And A&M is 8th in the SEC in terms of run defense, allowing 179.7 yards a game. I think the way to go here still is to go ahead and take LSU minus the 7.5 points. But here's what I would do, guys. I would wait. Because I think if this is right and Trevor Knight is going to be expected to play, I think this line might go down. And I think it would benefit you, even though I normally say 99% of the time you play the favorites early and the underdogs late. I think it would behoove you to wait and delay your action on LSU if you're interested in playing this game. Because if word gets out that Trevor Knight plays, because people will probably think LSU is going to be flat anyway, that line probably is suppressed, and you get better value with the Tigers. So that's how I would play the LSU contest. I know, listen, guys, it's difficult. Sometimes this is what you got to do as a handicapper. You got to project. You got to do your research. I know a lot of you guys, that's not what you do, but this is what I do for a living, and this is the way I think of these things out. Obviously, the Lions, the better of the two free choices here today. I wish you well. Again, enjoy the holiday with your friends and family, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. And, of course, you also know that today the NFL Countdown to Kickoff show that I do with Steve Budin is available already to be watched. So, hey, listen, if you don't want to watch the Macy's parade, you can watch our show instead. It's slightly more entertaining. Good luck, everybody, and I'll talk to you again on Friday morning.